surprise live. I think this was very difficult for me to do. Very, very difficult, but definitely something I felt like I needed to do. And I'm gonna share my screen as well if I can find the right screen to share. And hopefully, actually, I want to share that screen because it shares this screen. So hold on 1 second. I will put that in another screen. Um, yeah, this is a tough topic. And I think I was just really compelled to do this because I saw some other folks talking about it as usual, and they're going to keep talking about it and talking about it. And, you know, it's the topic of discussion right now. Okay. I don't know how well you can see this, but I can see it a little bit better now because I just put it on full screen. So I'm sharing a cardology spread here. And this particular spread that I'm sharing is the next 7 year cycle for America. So America just had a birthday, and that birthday would be the 4th of July. And not only was it an important birthday because, you know, it's just an important birthday because it's a birthday, but we just entered into a new 7 year cycle, right? And a lot of what's happening, this is the Mercury year. So this is just the beginning of a theme, of various themes, right? So one particular theme that I wanted to talk about was, of course, um, Bill Cosby and this whole incident. Bill Cosby is definitely, this situation has revealed to me that there are a lot of us that refuse to see things with a spiritual eye. We as a people, and when I say as a people, I'm talking about Black and Brown people, we tend to be thrown left and right. And this is a problem that I have with us. It's a deep problem. And it's a very disconcerting problem. And I'm going to point out some things which are evidence that we tend to just jump around, and that is a characteristic of being ruled by the moon and being ruled by your emotions, right? And not allowing Saturn to take root in your life so that you can be rooted and you can actually build something, build a legacy, build something long term and of substance. I'm not going to share that yet because I'm going to get back to that spread. I'm just going to talk a little bit. So, Saturn is that planet. It's the planet of quote unquote restriction, but it's also the planet of crystallization. You cannot create anything long term without embracing Saturn. You cannot create a legacy without Saturn, right? So we as a people, and this again, I'm talking about Black folks. Um, we have this tendency of just jumping around. We do in our thought, in our mind, one thing to the next, trend to trend, whether it's intellectual or whatever, right? So let's think back not only maybe 15, 20 years ago, and some of the millennials might be too young, but this message isn't really for millennials because I'm going to tell you something. Millennials on a whole, they're on track. Generation Z, everything below that, they're on track. Um, you're talking about, Pluto going towards the end of Pluto and Scorpio, going Pluto Sagittarius, Pluto Capricorn. All of these generations are going to be These are people who have come here to create generational change, number one, especially Capricorn and Pluto and Sagittarius, because that's Jupiter. But Pluto and Scorpio signaled a shift, right? Because that's what Scorpio is. Scorpio is about change, it's about transformation, it's about shift, right? So I'm not so much worried about them as I am worried about the older generations, like my generation, Pluto and Libra, Pluto and Virgo, you know, and even Pluto and Leo, which are the elder, right? And what's going on with Bill Cosby because he's of age is something that spans generations, right? So we're talking about a generational issue. Whenever you see a celebrity and the spotlight is shined on them for whatever reason, it's because this is a message for a wide array of people, for everyone, for humanity, because the light is there and everyone is looking, right? So back 10, 15 years ago, the common stance was that Bill Cosby was boule, right? Everyone was talking about it, in the conscious or semi conscious circles, 15, maybe like 15, even 20 years ago, and even earlier, right? Everyone was talking about the boule, right? And the boule was supposed to be representative of this elite circle of Black people who are wealthy and who are kind of operating on the same page, like in order, right? Secret order, of course, right? And so the talk of the town 15 or 20 years ago was the Black Boule. And people were outed as being a member of the Black Boule. And one of them was Bill Cosby, right? They talked about him being. And even during that time, it was substantiated by the fact that he talked a lot of very negatively about the common people or Black people, so to speak, out there. And that was a point for a lot of people, a sore point. So there was a whole lot of talk about this boule, right? So fast forward to now, the whole idea of him getting, going to jail, or people coming after him is somehow, I guess, he's no longer a part of the boule. Well, how about the boule has just disappeared mysteriously, right? And how does that happen? Well, it's my opinion that that has happened because we've come into this prosperity phase. And I think that if we were honest with ourselves, the whole idea of being anti boule was being anti this class and essentially not being wealthy, right? So now you have people who are chasing wealth, even in the so called conscious community. They're chasing wealth and they're starting to, the idea of some of the things that may have been associated with the boule are not that bad anymore. And it's fading, right? Because who's the boule now? The boule are the people who wanted to be on that level, who wanted to have that level of wealth, right? And now that they feel it's obtainable, the whole fear of having wealth on that level and possibly getting away with what you can get away with on that level has now dissipated, and it's now dissipating, period, right? So the only thing that really gave you some form of concern during that time was the fact that they had money and you didn't, right? So forget about whatever they may have done or whatever type of character they really possess. The idea of strife was the fact that they were wealthy and you were not, right? So flash forward to recent years, and I'm talking about since um, Saturn traversed Scorpio, then went into Sagittarius, which is roughly around the time all of this late hoopla started with Bill Cosby. That was when the world was exposed to all of these things he supposedly did. Because prior to that, everyone already knew these cases are not new, they're old, right? So now they're publicized because we're in this Sagittarius kind of frame of mind where everything is exposed, everything's put out there, everything's all over the world. And that's when this happens. Saturn crystallized the knowledge of these things, the truth, because that was about Saturn coming in and crystallizing. That's what Saturn does. Saturn coming in and crystallizing the truth and giving an opportunity for justice to be served by those who feel that they were denied justice, right? So, and pardon me if I think I'm seeing a little bit of a delay. Hopefully, this is streaming correctly. I don't see any comments, but when I post this, I'm going to turn the comments off. By the way, I have chat going, but I'm definitely going to turn the comments off because this is extremely polarizing time, and I'm gonna get into that as well. This year, the United States has a King of Hearts environment, and the King of Hearts is trolling, is saying cruel things online. It's lashes and all of that other stuff. So you best believe you're going to expect a lot of ugly comments coming this year on various different topics. I see somebody, Mika. I want to make sure that this is streaming correctly and it's not too slow. So if there's any problems, please drop it in the chat. But at any rate, now we're in 2021. Everybody's chasing fame, Insta fame, social fame, money, and a lot of things are kind of being tossed out the window, right? And these are the games, the rules of the game have changed yet again, right? So, this is an issue that I have with us because, we start to form, our collective opinion, which can help create a foundation by which we can grow on. And then when when certain things are triggered, then it all changes. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, something is not important and something else is important, right? And this is not a way to build a nation. This is not a way to build a legacy. This is not a way to build a solid foundation, right? Now, how do you build a solid foundation? Well, it's interesting because I want to bring, and this is when I'm going to bring the spread back up. And this particular spread represents the next 7 years. And there's a card that is at the top of this spread right here. And you probably can't see me outlining it, but that's the King of Clubs. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the King of Clubs because Guap is, I'm sorry, I'm looking pointing at Guap. The King of Clubs is the card of character, right? It's the card of character. And I want to make sure that I'm streaming to the right place. Hold on, you guys. Yeah, I wanted to make sure I'm streaming to Aquarius Maximus because my Guap folks have come in here. But the King of Clubs is the card of character, right? And character is essential for building a nation, for building a society, for building a village, right? And what is character? Well, character is a unified set of values which you agree is right and wrong behavior, right? And when people get out of line, when they get way off character, the universe kind of steps in and shines the light on these things that are out of character and out of line. They put them in the spotlight. to give you the opportunity to make the choice and the decision on who you want to build a nation with, who you want to build a home with, who you want to marry, right? And this is a Four Hearts decade, which is Venus to the King of Clubs, right? So this is a nation building decade. People are going to come together and they're going to build nations this decade. They're going to build land. They're going to get land together with people who they have shared values with. And they're going to get homes together with people who they have shared values with. And they're going to build a nation because the Pluto return of the United States is literally next year. This is about rebuilding a nation. And it's not just going to happen on a grand scale, it's going to happen on a personal scale in your life, right? You're going to have to decide who's on your team, who's in your corner, who can you build a nation with, who do you trust leaving your children around, who do you trust having your around your children, right? So you're going to be taught lessons, and this is something that I've been saying on social media all week. All skin ain't kin. You're going to be taught deeper lessons. You're going to be taught the things that it takes to make a successful nation or build a successful community. And the main thing that it takes, this is what you start with. It doesn't take money. It does not take ownership. It takes character, right? Because character is going to attract good people, right? It's going to attract people who want to build, not people who want to destroy. It's going to attract people who want to work on their character, who want to refine their character. It's not saying that you're perfect and you don't do things, but it's saying that you acknowledge your imperfections and that you work on bringing those up to level. Is to say that you have inferiors and you set a foundation to work on your inferiors so that your inferiors don't disturb and don't destroy other people. It's about building boundaries, and boundaries is based on character, right? So what I've noticed, here we are jumping into this new 7 year cycle where the crown is character. And we're talking about someone who has exhibited horrible character in real life, right? In real life, not acting, but in real life. And that is because we're moving out of the age of Pisces, where all of this fakeness, celebrities, Hollywood, and da 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 da, and the reality of these people are being revealed. They have to be real. They have to share their reality with you. That's why there was so much of a shift with reality shows over the last decade, because now it's about really moving to reality. And even Hollywood is going to be more based on real characters and reality, right? So it's also about distinguishing right and wrong, and being able to stick with that, because you can say something is wrong, but if you don't stick with it, if it just changes at will, then you lack character as well. Your foundation is full of holes, and you're not going to be able to build something that lasts for the long term. So what we tend to do is we tend to compare this to white people, right? And we'll say, well, they don't have this and they don't have character and they did that and they do this and they do that, right? And we do that from the outside because some of us, we don't really study what they do. We just look at it from the outside. Having a system that's built around character does not mean that you're not going to do bad things. But what it means is you're going to set aside consequences for breaking those codes or breaking that law. Consequences, which is another thing that we as Black people have not set for ourselves. And
Mhm.
because we haven't set consequences, and this is in America, they're a little better other places at doing this, but in America, because we have not set consequences for certain actions, then we don't have law and we don't have a nation, and we it's hard for us to build up a nation because who is going to go with you when you have no consequences for the things that people are sure to do? We don't have consequences. We don't have consequences. And when you don't have consequences, the universe imposes consequences on you in a more harsh way, in a more brutal way, in a more collective way, where it's going to affect you all, even me, until I step up and step in and lay down the rules of engagement and consequences for bad behavior, for stepping outside of boundaries, touching people when they don't want to be touched, you know, things like that, stepping into people's personal space, taking from them, stuff like that. So, the first rule of engagement of creating a nation and creating is laying down the law and making a pledge to adhere to that law and what those consequences are. The reason that child support is so bad and it affects us in such a horrible way is because we don't have any consequences to deal with abandonment. We don't have consequences. We don't set aside consequences. If a couple comes together and has children and someone just bounces, what are the consequences of that? Should there be consequences of that? Well, guess what? If you don't put consequences down, then that problem leaks into your home and then leaks into someone else's home. So their problem becomes your problem. And that's how the universe works. So if you don't deal with bad behavior, if you don't deal with extreme behavior and consequences, it is going to affect us all. And we're all doomed until we lay consequences down and until we deal with it. So back to Bill Cosby, because I mentioned Bill Cosby. Um, we're literally, I didn't have I had a problem with him getting out. That's bad enough. So he's out. Okay. But my big problem was the reaction to him getting out. My big problem was the comments, the insensitive comments to, all of the people who have been through sexual abuse and abuse in our community and know that they tried to tell on people and have been ignored, or know that they couldn't tell, or know that they were, labeled troublemakers and liars and thrown out of people's homes because they tried to expose a sexual predator. We know this to be fact, right? And this is a problem that has spilled out into our whole community because it's a problem we refuse to deal with. It's one of those swept under the rug problems that we have. And no one can deny this, right? So what's happening to with Bill Cosby is what already is happening to us. And that is our tendency to sweep shit under the rug. Also our tendency to not read, to not investigate, but to listen to what someone else said, gossip, the media, anything that's spread, rather than looking at the facts of the situation. Here we have someone who has admitted to some real criminal character flaws, admitted, and we still won't address that. We still are looking at the situation like he's innocent. When it came out of his own mouth that he is not innocent, he may say he's innocent, but he also said what he said. And on the flip side, you have comments from people saying that, women just agreed to this. Well, if you're going to agree to take a drug to have sex, why would you have to put it in my drink if I'm going to agree to it. I mean, this is just common sense. You just give it to me. You don't have to drop it in my drink, right? Um, and to say that every single one of them, as a woman, had the same goal, and that was money, is something that is said about us black women in everything, and even in child support. Black women or women in, this is something that we say, even though all of them were not black women, but there was some black women in here. This is something as black women that's taught to us. We going at, all of these different things. It's about money, you know, so that's why you go after them. But if you go to know the legal system, the easiest way you're going to get a conviction with a case like that, especially with a celebrity, is a civil case. Criminal cases rarely get prosecuted in those situations, especially if there's been time, right? Some people may go and try to launch a criminal case and kind of get laughed at, which is what has happened. So the next step is to launch a civil case. So guess what? If you can't get justice in the courts, you get justice in their pockets, and that's a universal law. And that is the reason why child support is what it is. Because if you can't get justice the regular way, the universe is going to give you justice in the way of compensation. It's going to you're going to have to, basically, it says when you have to pay, when you got to pay for what you did, either you have to pay or you have to pay. PAY, money. Now, even in cardology, the King of Hearts has a six of diamonds, which is payback, financial payments. The king, it has a King of Diamonds in Mercury. So that means that Mercury represents children, and the King of Diamonds represents having to be financially responsible for children. So the King of Hearts, which is the father, one of his first duties is going to be having to be financially responsible for children. So children are going to be a debt. And I think a lot of men are waking up to that fact now, because I've even met men that don't want children because, and the first thing they say is they don't want to deal with that debt. And they know that children are going to be a debt. So, and these are things, just things in cardology. But to go on back on to Bill Cosby, Bill Cosby is a three of diamonds, by the way, which is the same card as Donald Trump. And if you know anything about Donald Trump and what's been going on, no one has been able to make a sexual assault case stick to him neither. And as a matter of fact, what do they call Donald Trump? Teflon Don, right? And that is one of the features of the three of diamonds, that they can be virtually indestructible when it comes to those types of things, right? When it comes to their dealings with women, etc. So I'm going to flip it back to the women's side, because I'm not so mad at the men as I'm mad at the women. Um, I'm not mad at the men at all, because men think the way they think. You know what I mean? They're going to think the way they think. They're not going to think the same way as women are going to think. However, there's enough women that have experienced the situation, had the experience of not being believed or whatever in regards to sexual assault, even if it wasn't them, their mom, their grandmother, or whatever, that they should know that this happens. They should know. I spent the morning talking to a lot of traumatized Black women, and other people brought up, "Oh, you putting your trauma on Bill Cosby." No, not at all. It's not. He's triggering things that need to be dealt with. He's triggering issues that need to be put on the table. No, he's not taking it for everybody else. You know what I mean? No, not at all. I mean, he's lived a rich life. The man is like 83 years old. He's been millionaires over and over again. And his obvious choice, if you go back to the Boule and the conversations that people had back in the days, his obvious choice back then was white women, you know? And that, yet again, is an issue we jump back and forth on. In one case, you'll tell people, well, you're a sellout or this, that, and the third. But on the other case, when it's somebody that has, uh, that has position of power per se, you know, it's no longer an issue. Now, mind you, I don't care either way who anyone is with. It's not an issue for me. But that's what I mean. We don't have a stance. We don't have an issue. We just jump around to whatever suits us at the moment. And it's just not a very trustworthy thing to do. And that's where we're going to come to the jack of spades, because the jack of spades is right now very prevalent, and that's just taking on personas, taking on, different characters. But as a whole, it's typically someone that needs to involve character, a strong character in their life, to be able to manifest the gifts that are there for them, the blessings that are there for them, the wealth, to be able to properly manifest what is owed them. They have to get their character together collectively. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And like I said, I'm going to turn the comments off because I really don't want to hear the back and forth and the triggering comments and all that stuff like that. I know that this is a way where a lot of our personal responsibility is absolved and taken away from us on social media, because we could just get up there and anonymously say anything, or we can get up there and just speak out of our off the top of our head. And the funny thing I used to tell people is that sometimes people are up here straight drunk and high, and they say things and it start a whole shitstorm. You know what I mean? But guess what? The person wasn't even in their right mind when they wrote it. You know what I mean? And then sometimes you have people, again, with character issues that'll write stuff that they don't care what they write. They don't care. It's just something to do. It's just something off the top of their head. They have not done any research. They didn't care enough to get involved on that level. They didn't care enough to read. They didn't care enough to read about the individuals that were involved. They didn't care. And some people think that this is a win for Black people. It's never a win for Black people when we can't come together and create a safe environment for all of us in our community and agree on what is wrong and right behavior. What is right and wrong? Where is your grandma's at? Yeah, grandma used to have to fight, and she may not have been able to speak up as much, because it was much more dangerous for her back then. But she always told you, what's right and wrong. You know the difference between right and wrong, and you do. And that's what I'm saying right now. You know the difference between right and wrong. And if you don't, and you don't stand on it, then everything you build is going to crumble. So, that's just my message, and it's no hate to people on an individual basis, and some people you speak out, oh, you just hate Black men. Did you hate Black men when you was saying that Bill Cosby was a part of the Boule 15, 20 years ago? Did you hate Black men then? You know what I mean? And I'm talking to brothers. Did you hate Black men when you said that this was a big old secret organization and that they do XYZ? Did you hate Black men then? What's changed? What has changed? Why are we backpedaling on what's right and wrong? We literally spent about a year ago, 2 years ago, when the whole subject was Pizzagate. We literally spent a year talking about Pizzagate, right? We're talking about Pizzagate. And We're talking about how wrong this is what we'll do. And this is something that happens when you feel this is the symptom of a powerless person. You pick something that has no victims that you know of, you can't do anything about, instead of addressing the things that you can do something about, instead of addressing the things that are going on in your locale, in your home, in your backyard. We do a lot of stuff at times to run away from doing the real work in the community, the real work that's inside of your house, the real work that's in your community, the real work addressing the real pedophiles, the real, whatever. We do a lot to run away from that. Instead, we focus on stuff that we can't do anything about, that will never change. All it's going to be is just a bunch of gossip and fodder to talk about. We will spend, we will do videos, we'll do YouTubes, we'll do conspiracy videos on this and on that. But the very basic things that you can make a difference in, even if it just affects one person who is going to give birth to a nation, you refuse to do. So I had to put all my cardology aside and just have this one conversation, because I'm building things. I don't know about you, but I'm building things. And the things that I'm building, the structures that I'm building, the communities that I'm building, we're going to have consequences for bad behavior. So if you can't control yourself, this is not going to be for you. You know what I mean? My goal is to keep people safe, everyone safe, and give people an opportunity to live their best life and not have to deal with some of the things that our forefathers have dealt with, which are now coming at our feet. So that means that you're going to have to stand for something or fall for anything. So again, that was just my little and I took that opportunity to outline it. So character sits right there at the top of the spread for 7 years. So that means that anyone who wants to get to that spot better have your character right. You better at least be working on your character. You know what I mean? Because that's a serious thing right there, having that king there. That king of clubs is guarding there. And it's like the consequences are life and death. So you might not get prison, but you may get the other thing. You know what I mean? So that's very, very, very important. But that is a good sign because that says that we're really moving forward. We're moving towards doing something. We're moving towards really building. We're always talking about building nations or building a nation, nation building. Why are we not nation building? Why is that not happening? Why, when we build something, it gets torn down? You think it's just racism and power? You think we're just powerless? No, we're very powerful. But it gets torn down because it gets built on a weak foundation. That's why it gets torn down. Saturn doesn't like weak foundations. Someone said wanted me to talk a little bit about the spread for the year, which I've done, but I'll talk about it. One of the things, the cards that I see playing out real strong right now is the Ten of Spades, which is the card of the year. And that card is very, very touchy, very triggering, you know. So when you have a situation to where many people are going to be triggered in different ways, it's definitely going to provoke some incidents this year. There's going to be some incident provoking stuff, right? But that's okay because this is about bringing change in areas where we neglected. Things that we know we needed to change are going to be changed, that are going to be tacked. And it's connected to that Pluto return too. Things that we know need change, in particularly money, the area of money, finances, that's a big area that's going to undergo changes. And we're definitely going to be getting into digital money, crypto, etc. next year. If people are projecting the use of crypto like 2, 3, 4 years down the line. I don't see that. It's going to be within the next, you know, 18 months or so, even less, that we're going to be using this and putting this to use as money because we're not going to have any choice. Definitely going to be dealing with inflation, hyperinflation, prices going up astronomically, crashes, all types of things in the area of finance. A lot of volatility. However, I also talk about all of the good stuff. We have a Queen of Diamonds and Pluto this year with the Ten of Diamonds. So, this is an opportunity for you to be able to get the money that you need to put those business ideas that you have and for them to be successful. You know what I mean? And that Ten of Diamonds is your angels, your ancestors, your spirits. You better get tight and right with them because they're going to be helping you navigate all of the deep transformation, like all of the death, all the stuff that's coming. They're going to help you navigate that. Because as I tell people all the time, the ancestors don't want to come back to poverty. They don't return. They like it's your time. Get it. Because when they come back, they're going to be taken care of, and they know it. So that's just a little bit tapping into that. In terms of the actual cardology of what's going on with Bill Cosby, I'll probably do another session, pull up his cards and stuff like that. But I wanted to talk about the overall message that's affecting us. He's just a window shining on us, and he's shining the areas that we need to fix. So, best believe some things are going to be coming up, more stuff. This is not over. Things are going to come up, more secrets are going to come out, more things to drive you to making a decision, a real decision on standing individually on what's right and wrong, period. Nothing to do with color, nothing to do with black or white. Right and wrong is right and wrong. And just because you think they're doing wrong does not give you the license to do the same and doesn't absolve you from the guilt of doing the same. So, at any rate, thank you for my little blip. I will be doing more lives, definitely. At least once or twice a week, and on my channel. So watch out for that as well. Peace.